Hey everybody, this is your boy John, and on today's episode of Geeks from the Multiverse, we're going to be doing the part 2 of Star Trek, and this is really going to be focusing on the more modern day shows as well as the future of what Star Trek could hopefully look like. But stay tuned.
We're geeks from the multiverse. We've come to unite all geeks. Now it's time to get geeky and dive right in, 'cause we're geeks from the multiverse.
Hey everybody, it's your boy John again, and with me as always is Matt, aka Grumpy Beard.
What's going on, everybody?
And yes, of course, Captain Lestat, as we all know. But anyways, we're talking about, of course, the Star Trek part 2 of this. And
can I tell you, the one thing I always wanted to do when I was a kid?
Oh, really? Okay, this is random, but okay. What did you always want to do as a kid?
I always, because I did watch Star Trek when I was younger, and the one thing I always wanted to do is I always wanted those pointy sideburns. You know what I'm talking about, like the Star Trek OG pointy sideburns.
I think I'd have to look this up because I don't think I know what you exactly are talking about. I mean, are you talking like the original, or are we talking like the Next Generation?
No, I'm talking original series. Like everybody had like those pointy Star Trek sideburns. Like I always wanted to get those because even like through high school, like I always had like longer. I didn't always have a beard, believe it or not. I know that's surprising to everybody, but
oh, wait a minute. Okay, now I'm seeing.
I always wanted
like that.
Yeah, every character had those pointy sideburns, and I always wanted to like.
That's so weird.
I always wanted to get like those styled crazy pointy sideburns.
And now I'm looking because I'm now noticing that. So really, it was like more Spock and what I see.
No, every person had them.
I know that. Yes, they did. But then what I'm looking at too. Now this is a thing from look at Next Generation.
Oh yeah, it was.
I didn't realize that they all had them too.
It was a Star Trek thing. Like I always saw. I saw almost every Star Trek character like had them, and I was like, man, I really want to get those. Like that would be so hip. And then it's kind of like. Is it though?
Is it, or do I just say, you know what? I don't really want them anymore.
Because I think we're like, if I really get them, like people are just gonna be like, what did you do to your sideburns?
I mean, I'm just gonna show you. I mean, here's Chris Pine, version, and you're like, that's why it's the Kelvin version. That's not even the real thing. It's like
they didn't even try.
They didn't even try at that point. They're just like, what is that shit?
No, he's not Kirk.
No, I know, but I mean, it's one of those things that, I think as growing up, when you start to look at like this and you start to look at like, some of our shows that we've talked about before, you could, this is why as geeks, right, we want to escape, right? We want to explore those worlds of where we would love to see, we would love to just like be in it for a little bit. Like, don't get me wrong. I would love to jump into like even if it was the original Star Trek. Or just going in there.
I love
just, being like, okay, beam me up, Scotty. Like I think it would be cool. I think it would be kind of like, just to get the environment, the atmosphere of everything.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that original series was like they would go to a planet and it would just be like Wild West. And then like the next episode was like ancient Rome.
Right.
That's what I mean. Like they would be having gladiator battles and.
Yeah, and it would be random. And then actually, I think there was one world where, I kid you not, it was something like this. It was like a World War II style. Like they were like going. It was almost like they were going against Hitler in this world in a sense.
And then the next one, like they like get to this planet and it's like a pleasure island.
Right. You're just like, wait, what? Where did we just go from?
What are we doing? And it's like, but it's like it's really really cool. Like when you're watching this. And it's really different, like we did kind of do the comparisons to, Star Trek and Star Wars. There are obvious comparisons, and we went through that. You can watch the other episode. But I do think the whole exploration and discovery and looking at how fantastic it can be, like, I do think some of these newer shows lost some of that a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't really help, right? When you start to look at a lot of these, shows moving forward, right? It sucks when you start to look at like like movies, right? You know, like you're like, oh, I love this like original movie, right? And then like they have the reboot or not the reboot, but like let's say they have a sequel and you know they have a third movie and so forth, and then they go to a prequel and then they do like a pre prequel, and you're like, wait a minute, stop! Like, what are we doing here? Like, and you lost your touch, you know. And this is why we've joked around about like, you know, following that blueprint in a sense, because like, you know, when you look at Star Trek, and we've even just said that it was, you know, one of the longest running, you know, sci-fi series of all time, you know. It sucks when you look at the original, and I guess, you know, when you start to see like the next gen, you know, they're again taking it a different course, but still kind of keeping their core roots in a sense, I would say, you know. But I feel like once you start to push that a little bit more, you know, some of these newer series, I don't think they might have not captured, you know, the essence of really what Star Trek is or was, you know, back in the day.
Yeah, I do think you know, Enterprise is one that does.
Okay.
I think Enterprise does, and that was this ran from 02 to 05, and Scott Bakula actually plays the captain of the Enterprise, and this was the Enterprise A, which was the very first Enterprise. You know, later models, which was kind of B through E, I believe they went through E. I don't think it went beyond E. I could be wrong, but you know, this one was only capable of warp 5, and it was much smaller. It didn't carry as many weapons, and it didn't have, you know, any defensive shielding other than the hull. So when you're looking at the other Enterprises, like Kirk's Enterprise was Enterprise B, you know, they had shields, they had photon torpedoes, they had, you know, photon everything, you know, they had weapons. This one did not have like any of those. They had photon cannons, which were different.
Right. So it almost seems like it was like a transport ship or like an information ship.
Literally was an exploration ship. Right, I mean, that's literally what it was. It was the, you know, the early days of Starfleet. So Enterprise was literally just the exploring new space. And that's literally what the Enterprise was doing.
So wait, are you saying that if you think about modern day right now, are you saying that the Space Force could potentially be the Starfleet of the future?
I mean, if you look at, you know, Space Force and you look at Starfleet and you start looking at their logos.
Hold on. So, you know, and this is what's funny, because I only mentioned this because I did see this a while back. So I believe this was when it first started, but it was, I think it was like some 4-star general or I don't know. So he was high up there, or maybe a 1-star, 2-star. He was saying that because he transferred over from the Air Force, whatever. And he's like, you know, people have been saying that it looks a lot like, you know, Star Trek and whatnot. He's like, it's not. It's like, it may have similarities, but it's really not, you know, the same thing. And I'm sitting there like, multiple people have taken the logo and your logo and literally combined the two and saying, that looks pretty damn similar. And then, you know, it's funny. Then you want to talk about copyright infringement. And then the problem is are you going to do that with the U.S. government? Like, are you going to pick a battle with them about this kind of shit? You know, so it's kind of hard when you want to like, yeah, you are kind of
100. I mean, 100% you would. Yeah.
No, but I know we're going off topic a little bit, but I just thought it was funny because they were really adamant on saying that, no, we're not like Star Trek. We're not like them, even though, you know, thank God, I don't think, if I'm not mistaken, at least the ranks that they had or whatever, some of them were funny as hell. They were like, you know, spaceman, you know, it was like a private spaceman or something like, it was something stupid. And I was sitting there like, what? And this was like a proposal. Thank God it's not like that now, because the proposal like ranks or whatever I thought were completely dumb. And I'm like, this is not going to go anywhere. But no, they followed like Air Force ranks and whatnot. But anyways, no, I guess that would be kind of like what we're looking at now, right? So like if we ever decided that we wanted to like kind of do what Star Trek is doing, I guess that would be kind of close to what modern day, you know, you can try at least now, but who knows in 100 or 200 years from now, it could be.
Yeah, I don't know.
Different, but anyways.
But this one, you know, this ran for 4 seasons, and it is a prequel series. It is set a few hundred years before the original series. And it is, like I said, the early days of Starfleet. So, you know, it's the formation of the Federation in a pre-existing Star Trek universe. So it's, there are familiar elements, like it does, portray the Vulcans, and it is a more grittier portrayal of space exploration. I do like the show. I do think it probably should have gone more than 4 seasons, but I just don't think it was as popular.
I think that's the problem, man, is like, what him and I were talking about this a little bit beforehand, but, and we'll be mentioning in another episode, but like, I just feel like they should, if they're going to do it the right way, they should definitely reboot, like kind of do like the reboot of like the original show, make that for a while. Don't make it for like a few seasons, like make it a thing up until a certain point. And then, you build upon it, and then you build that universe back again.
Well, I mean, right now you have Enterprise. You know what I mean?
Right,
So you have this one, it's set a few hundred years. And so you have already the story of, the very early Enterprise, right? This is the very first version of the Enterprise.
True.
We're going to skip over Discovery just to get into Strange New Worlds. And I know that that's a show that's, it just started in 22 to 23. And it's a show that's still going to be on.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a show that's also a prequel series of the original show.
Which technically, right, because him and I were talking about this too, is, Captain Pike, right? It was the original captain before Kirk.
This one is set a decade before the original series.
Oh, what, the Discovery?
Strange New Worlds.
Oh, Strange. Okay, my bad. Go ahead.
This one is set a decade before. So,
was it this one, or was it Discovery that was the prequel?
Strange New Worlds is the prequel.
Okay, well, I'm just double verifying here. Don't give me that sassitude, whatever the hell that was.
You've asked me 2 times already, bro.
Well, I'm just talking. I just want to make sure I'm right here. So then,
Strange New Worlds is a prequel series set a decade before the original series.
All right, then. All right. Thank you very much.
I just want to clear it up a third time.
Okay. You sure you don't want to press a glowing button over there? I'm joking.
Well, it's not glowing right now.
Yeah,
so.
Right now it's not. But anyways, keep going.
All right. So there is a new season coming this year, and then another season to be determined after that. So there probably will be one in 2026. I'm guessing. I'm a guessing.
Are you a guessing?
I'm a guessing. But it does capture that like classic Star Trek feel. It does the episodic storytelling. It does have the strong character development. It does deliver that, original Enterprise feeling. It is a little bit different though, because, the captain is Captain Pike, which you would know Captain Pike from the original show. You would also know him from, the movie with Chris Pine, because he was in that movie too.
Right.
But Christopher Pike was the captain of the Enterprise before Kirk took over. And in this show, Christopher Pike is the captain of the Enterprise. And, it's a good show. It's a familiar setting with the original Enterprise. So it's just kind of a nice, like, it's a good show. Like, even though Kirk is technically on a different ship right now.
Okay.
I don't think really, like, we had this discussion before we started recording, whether it's like the actor portraying Kirk or it's how he's portraying Kirk. I just don't think he has the same level of charisma, or he's portraying him the correct way currently, like, to be in that role of like, this dude was the dude. Like, he took over the role of what Christopher Pike was doing. And I love Christopher Pike in this show. Like, Christopher Pike is the dude in the show. Like, he is absolutely the best captain by far of this generation of shows.
Okay.
Like, between Scott Bakula and whoever the fuck the captain is of Discovery, like, I don't care of anybody in that show. Like, that show can go fuck itself for all I care. But
yeah,
Christopher Pike is definitely in the running between him, Picard, and Kirk. Because between the three of them, he definitely is up there.
No, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, I would say Pike was kind of a mix between Picard and Kirk, where he was maybe slightly rebellious, but not full on. Like he had that in between about him, I feel like that's kind of where you're going with in that sense.
He's bold. I think he definitely takes his risks. But I think he's bold in his stance, and it's not like he's a rule breaker, because he definitely follows the rules, and but he doesn't like. He's not like Kirk, where he goes by his emotions. You know what I mean? So like he goes by the rules, but he's also very, very bold when something needs to happen and he knows that it needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Then it gets done.
Yeah.
But he also knows like Starfleet's commands and knows kind of like, okay, well, this is the wiggle room that we need to wiggle around to get to it.
Right.
And so like, it's definitely like a different, I mean, the show takes a different perspective. It does present a younger Spock in the show. Yeah. So Spock is obviously, I mean, it's a decade before. So, Spock is definitely younger. You get to see his character development, struggling being a Vulcan and a human. There's the space exploration and the diplomacy. It's not really a dark show. I think you see a little bit more of Pike. You get to learn more about him, but it's a different show.
Well, it's probably like a new take, because like when you see the original, like you only see him in that first episode. You don't really get to see Pike as much, and then like you were saying, like later on you get to see him in the movie Star Trek, whatever, with Chris Pine. And you only get to see like a slurp, like a lot more than you saw in the beginning of, the original series. But I think it's nice where like this is where they could take it, right? Because they can have a new perspective or a new take on things. Because, I think in the original series, like they weren't really making Christopher Pike the main captain, right? They were just like, okay, he's dead. Boom. All right, here comes James Kirk.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
and
so
that was
now
always
they can,
the plan.
right?
Yeah.
And so now they're like, hey, we can take this, really do something with it, and see where this goes, and then maybe think about doing other things.
And I do hope that whenever they're done with Strange New Worlds, if they do drive, this show into Kirk having the Enterprise after this,
hopefully not with the same actor.
Hopefully not with that same dude, because I would hope that
they want to change him up a bit.
They would want to change it up, and they would eventually move to somebody who would be just as, charismatic as the Kirk that we would know.
Now, I know in the next episode we'll be talking about some possible ideas for new casting and things like that, but
not for Kirk or Picard.
No, just general ideas.
A general show, a Star Trek show in general. Yeah.
Right. But, I mean, if you want, guys, you can always message us and say, hey, this would be a really cool idea for this. And again, it's called interacting with us, just saying.
But I do like the show. I think for the new shows, like Strange New Worlds is one of the better ones. Okay. Moving back to Discovery.
This one I feel like you have like it's good, but it's like kind of a deal.
Yeah, because it has 5 seasons. It ran from 18 to 24.
Oh, it's done. Like there's no.
Yeah,
more.
this is done, and I'm glad it's done.
Of course,
I do like some of the characters. Don't get me wrong. Because I do like the show, and I do like what I do sort of like what it did for Star Trek. But I do feel at times, and I hate using this word so bad.
Man, what is it? Because I think I know what the word you're talking about.
I hate using this word, because I feel like Star Trek has always been about this. Like since the original season, like series in '66, I feel like they've always been about this. Like there has been moments in the original series, even in '66, where women have like kissed, and like there has been moments where it has been woke. And I hate using that word, but the original series in 66 has done things that they shouldn't have done.
Right.
And society was like, whoa, what are you doing?
Again, with Kirk and Yahara literally kissing. Uhura, sorry, my bad. I thought it was you. My bad. You know what? Anyways, the point is, them two kissing on live, like literally at the time.
They have done things. Yeah. I mean, even Uhura kissed another girl. On the show.
I know. It was actually one of the...
In 66, though.
Yes. No, you're right.
We're not talking like 2022, 2002. We're talking 60s. Women didn't kiss women, not even out in public.
That's true. It was basically, it was like an unwritten rule.
You would get a rock thrown at you.
Yeah, pretty basically.
Like...
No,
you would get pushed into the ground and stepped on by society. Like
I agree, and that's
66,
right? And so like now, it's crazy to me like that you're mentioning this, but it's like it's true. We as a society now, it's like that is the agenda. Like we all know, like when you start to look at, and Matt and I have been talking about this for quite some time now, is that the amount of TV shows, the amount of movies, the amount of everything that has been. That is the ultimate agenda, which we're sitting there like, why? Why is this the case?
But I think like they took the show Discovery and they're like, well, Star Trek has always been about this. And so they just took it and were like, well, let's multiply it as much as we can. And this is why the show I think is just done. Like you take what this has done. And characters are not fully developed. Storylines are not fully developed. You take liberties on your storylines. Like why has the show just leaped forward into time? And now it's leaped forward so far into time, now you don't have any story left to tell.
Well, and that's the problem, Matt.
Now you need other freaking shows to tell your story.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to invest in a show, then make the damn show like 10 seasons. Like, invest in the show instead of making other shows to fill in the gap or to do other things to it.
You get to like, okay, well, we're at season 4. What other ideas do we have? We got one more show. One more season planned. What do we got? We can do this. Well, no, Strange New Worlds is doing that. Well, I got nothing. Okay, well, I guess we're done.
No, I mean, and then, like I said, it's sad. It's sad to a degree, but like at the same time, is it really worth it? Like, let me ask you a question. Like watching Discovery, is it really worth it? In your opinion?
It definitely started. I think it started strong.
Was it kind of like the whole TWD kind of thing? Like it was started off great, and then it was like at the end.
Yes, it definitely was that. But like with Discovery, like it is visually stunning. Like the production value is really good.
Okay.
I do think the character development is really really good. The modern take on Star Trek universe is really good. I think they just tried to take on like. You have a Star Trek universe. Okay, mind you, they're not in the 2000s, like in 2020 or to 2000 or 2010 or 2020. No. They're in like 2345 or 2365 or whatever fucking year they're like,
right.
They're in like the 25th century or whatever century that they're in. And they're still talking in this show about societal issues that we're talking about in the 20th century. Now, honestly, do you think in a Star Trek universe, in Starfleet, they would be dealing with this in the 23rd or 24th or 25th century?
No, they're not going to talk about this kind of shit at that point. If it's Star Trek, then it's more of like a united front. Nobody gives a shit about all this other crap that we're dealing with right now.
No, they're probably not. And I'm sure that there are cultures that are, when they go to a planet, they're going to be they're dealing with all kinds of different things. But like, it's just, the things that they dealt with in the show are different, and I get it. Like, these are what people that are watching the show are dealing with, so you have to address them. And I get it. I do. But it's just one of those things. It doesn't need to be hammered down our throats all the time. Like, every time we turn on a show, it doesn't need to be hammered down our throats all the time. I'm just going to put it out there.
No, and so this is one thing I'm going to say, right? So the reason why I enjoyed the military, right, and I still do, but is because when you wear a uniform, and this is kind of the same thing with Star Trek, because I noticed this as well, right? Is when you're wearing, if you're basically a part of something, right, and you're a part of this kind of like bigger picture movement or this organization, right, or something like that, right? You tend to forget everything else in between, right? So it doesn't matter about color, your age, your beliefs, or certain other things, right? Like you're looking at it as a whole, right? So like when you start to look at Star Trek, you know, granted, yes, you have your black characters, you have your Asian characters, you have whatever, right? You know, everybody in between. You can have, you know, whether they're gay, they're bisexual, I mean, you name it, whatever, right? It don't matter in the freaking umbrella of whatever we're, you know, talking about here. But at the end of the day, right? So like, this is why I always say about, you know, military, it's like, we don't care what that is that you believe in or whatever. It's not about that. As long as you, well, one, in this case for us, it's more like, you know, as long as you have my back and I have, you know, your back, and, you know, we can agree to disagree on maybe, let's say, certain things, and, you know, let's say, you know, I can at least, you know, eliminate the enemy with you, and we're not going to be turning it against each other. I mean, I can name so many other fucking things here, but as long as basically at the end of the day, it's like we wear the same uniform and we are basically a part of something, and we're understanding the beliefs of what this, we'll call it the prime directive, right? Of whatever the greater mission is for that thing. It's not going to matter, right? And so like, that's where when you look at Star Trek, it literally showing you that you're bringing people together. Now, granted, yes, I agree. You're gonna address whatever the situations or the, you know, the moments or, you know, the people and the whatever, right? It's just, you're right. It doesn't need to be drilled every single episode. It does not need to be done every single time, because, again, I'm going to say it, who cares, right? Who literally cares, right? Because at the end of the day, right, it's fine if you want to address it here and there. Great. But not everybody wants to hear it every damn time, because that is the truth.
And we keep saying this about TV shows and movies, and, you know, we've said this a lot about Disney. We've said this a lot about DC. Like, we've said this a lot about, you know, a lot of things. And, you know, these TV shows and these movies, like, especially like, well, you know, this one has been criticized for, you know, inconsistent. I'm just reading this, and this is like a real criticism of the show. Inconsistent writing, melodramatic storylines, poorly developed characters, a significant departure from established Star Trek lore, particularly with the redesigned Klingons, and a heavy focus on special effects over character development, leaving many longtime fans feeling it strayed too far from its core themes of the franchise.
I mean, that's the problem, right? And we've talked about
when you don't follow, like,
you don't follow the damn blueprint.
When you don't follow a blueprint, you know, and it's not like Star Trek doesn't have a blueprint.
They do. I mean, they have a general idea.
1966. We're talking 2018.
At the time.
I'm not even doing the math on how many years that is.
A long time.
But that's a long fucking time to like look at a blueprint and go, we have this many years of Star Trek lore to look at.
Right. And if you know, you can look at it, you can do whatever. And if now, again, sometimes with that being said, depending on where you're going with it, yeah, you're going to have to get creative. You're going to have to start thinking of new ideas, whatever. But again, I understand. And this is where you have to understand, like, all the inner workings. If you don't understand it, then it's clearly not going to work in the long run to build the shit. So that's why clearly Discovery didn't last as long as it should have, even though you were like, thank God it was done. by the time it was over. But no, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
You know, now like moving over to Picard over here.
Well, before we get there, we have
okay,
we have this other series that's
here
called
we go.
Short Treks.
See, and this
Now, these were shorter, kind of standalone stories. They kind of offer these like little bite-sized narratives that were, well written, well acted, blah blah blah. Well, that's what they want to say. But basically, what these were additions, because when you look at the criticism, if they're not well done, why would you need a short track to add to it? Well, you wouldn't unless it was poorly done.
Correct.
And these kind of like, there was 2 seasons, so it went from 2019 to 2020, and it kind of adds like a companion series to both Discovery and Strange New Worlds. So it kind of brings you along to like different characters or different, it's a little companion to like you would maybe like find a little backstory on a character or whatever. I didn't watch any of the short treks, but
why would you? Since it was well written, right?
But they're just like little short stories on, it might be like a character, going on a mission, or, maybe somebody who fell in love, and you get to kind of see their journey of, whatever, but it's,
I know what you
it's,
mean.
they're just little short treks and like little companion stories. Starfleet, we did mention this in the last episode. It's an upcoming show. It's set in the 32nd century, which is where Discovery is now. They're in the 32nd century.
Jesus. that is quite some time.
But that's how far they jumped. They jumped to the 32nd century.
Yeah, well, clearly they don't even know what Starfleet is.
And so Starfleet Academy is going to be the first new class of Starfleet cadets that will be trained to become officers. So that'll be like one of the first spin-offs of Discovery. So we did that one. So Picard.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, okay, Picard. Okay, so yes, this is focusing on the retired Picard. Yes, Jean-Luc. Okay. Jean-Luc, as he sets off on a new adventure. So it's strong focus on character development, particularly the emotional depth of Jean-Luc Picard as an aging man facing a changing galaxy, coupled with the nostalgic appeal of reuniting the next generation crew in season 3, which delivered a satisfying blend of classic Trek themes and fresh storylines with great chemistry between the cast. However, some criticize the inconsistent quality across seasons, with season 1 and 2 being as less impactful than the highly regarded season 3. Now, the question is though, so it's done. Picard's done.
Yeah, it had 3 seasons. It ran from 2020 to 2023.
No, I know, but I just want to make sure.
But yes,
it is coming back.
It is done. It's not coming back. I really liked Picard, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I really liked Picard. I liked seeing him. I mean, obviously he's way old.
But
I did like, I did like seeing, and it wasn't just like the next gen people. Like 7 of 9 was in there. So there were some other people that were in there.
Okay.
7 of 9 was in Voyager.
Okay.
There were some other people, but it was nice having.
Is it more like a closure in a sense with him?
It sort of was like that closure of like the next gen, Picard cast, like just coming together, and the whole storyline kind of was like, bringing him and getting Data, because I think Data at that point was like missing, or kind of he thought he was kind of dead or demolished. So it was like kind of getting Data back and bringing back that cast in season 3 and kind of having the full closure of everybody together and kind of finishing things off in a kind of big way. But it was a good show. I mean, it was
very short-lived, clearly, but I
mean, 3 seasons. I mean, I don't think you were going to really get any more than that, but
yeah, as long as they ended it the right way and the great way they could have.
For what it was, I mean, it was cool because you did get to see, they do have like a in one particular episode they wherever they were, because it does show, he's a retired Picard, so he's in the future, obviously.
Right.
But wherever they were in space or whatever planet, there was a Starfleet museum.
Oh.
And it showed every single...
what, captain or?
Every single Enterprise.
Oh, no shit.
So they were able to get onto their Enterprise.
Oh, no kidding.
So it was kind of cool to be like, oh, they're on they're stealing their own Enterprise. Like they're stealing their Enterprise. It was kind of cool because they were kind of like, well, how are we going to get out of here? And they're like, wait a minute. There's a museum that has our Enterprise. Like, so they were.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's cool that they have that kind of like piece of history and be like, hey, you know what? We're just gonna steal it real quick. It's not a big deal.
So one of these I'm probably not going to watch because it's a kids cartoon kind of like animated show. But Lower Decks, I've watched a little bit of it. It is funny, but I don't know. It's more subdued than I would say like Rick and Morty and Family Guy. It's definitely not geared for younger kids.
So it looks like it's for younger kids, but it's not.
But Lower Decks, which is not geared to younger kids, it is more subdued. Like I said, it's more subdued than like Rick and Morty, but it is an adult animation.
So I would say like a younger adult kind of like.
I would say like teens to young adults.
Okay.
If you're an adult, you can. I mean, definitely watch it. It is like it does have the adult humor in it, but it's not like
it's not like a Star Trek vibe.
It's not like Rick and Morty are like running around with like aliens puking and vomiting and
right.
Pissing all over the place, and Rick is singing about shitting on the floor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean getting swifty. No.
Yeah. It's not like that. It is a lot more subdued, but there is adult humor. So it's typically just stuff not seen in Star Trek, but it is a lot more subdued than that.
Okay.
But it is like a low ranking, the people in the show in the animated show they're like low ranking support crew of the starship Cerritos. Doritos? I don't know.
Doritos toss Sarah off the ship. What?
And they're in the 24th century.
Oh, so they're like, yeah, they're closer to us, I guess, than the other ones. But yeah,
yeah. So that's an animated show, Lower Decks. 5 seasons so far. I believe it's still going on.
Oh boy.
20 to two. I can talk. 2020 to 2024.
Probably gonna be another season here, surely.
So there probably will be another season. It is pretty popular. The one I'm probably not going to watch is Prodigy. That is a younger audience. So it follows a group of young aliens in the 24th century again.
Once again.
They find an abandoned starship called the Protostar and learn about Starfleet.
Okay, so it's only gone for 2 seasons. Because apparently it's skipped 23.
22 and 24. I don't know why it skipped 23, but
fucking 20. It was like, nope, not doing that.
23 can go.
Wow, look at Matt. Here we go again. Yeah, and so this is where
I do feel like the animated show, like I do feel like Lower Decks could be more of like the future of what Star Trek can do, though, because I feel like
I guess if you want to look at it like that,
I feel like that could be something they could probably do a lot more of. Because I do feel like that there's more in that. I think they could do like not so much of like the Rick and Morty or the Family Guy, like that stuff's funny, sure, but I'm talking more of like just animated, not quite like anime, you know what I mean? But like the actual like real like animations, like stories.
Look, as long as they're not going to do like the OG animated series or something like that's very like serious, like, that's fine. I mean, I can see where you're going with that.
No, I'm talking like how Disney did like the X-Men.
Oh no, I know what you're saying.
Like
yes, absolutely.
Like the Spider-Man series, like some of these like newer these newer animated shows that are now coming out. Like I feel like Star Trek could jump on that same boat and do the same thing
as long as as long as they have to do it the right way, you know. And because like when you looked at like I'm gonna say it, like if you look at like even like Batman animated series, Superman, the Spider-Man animated series, you know, the X-Men series, all that shit in between, right? Yes, I know they're like, oh, it's cartoony. Well, I mean, technically, this is like that same style as like Rick and Morty, but if they did another animated series, they could do that same styles of like those kind of animated shows that have been successful, like I just mentioned. Like a lot of those are Justice League. They could do something like that, but they have to make a story that actually
even
makes
like what
sense
they're
to
doing with like Invincible, like I mean, even
or whatever. I mean,
even though Invincible is like really gritty and graphic, they
No,
wouldn't do
yeah.
Star Trek graphic like that. But like,
no, but I
you
mean,
make a really serious, not comedy, but like a really serious animated, you know, show.
it could work as long as they do it the right way. As we all know, whether they do it the right way is a different story. But I mean,
And that's a whole nother story.
yeah,
But
well,
yes,
yes, but they have to do it the right way.
But you know, I mean, I guess getting into the, you know, the future of Star Trek, you know,
See, this is what I was about to say until you were like, "Now we're going to talk about this real quick." Enough.
but I think, you know, Discovery did something when they jumped to the 32nd century. You know, in the show, it was very weird because, you know, they had the way that they traveled wasn't. Discovery was a weird ship in that they didn't have a warp drive. Not at first they did, but in the show they actually had, and I'd have to look it up again, but they had like this weird way to travel that was like some kind of like a alienish creature
Oh, okay.
that allowed them to like jump from one.
So it was like a portal in a sense.
It wasn't like a portal. It just allowed them to kind of just jump from one area to another.
Okay. Even though I really don't understand that, but that's fine. I mean,
Yeah, it was like these like almost like kind of bacteria, kind of like alien creature things, but they gave off like this fluid
okay.
that allowed them to jump. And one of the guys that was like the engineers,
Yeah.
when he interacted like with one of the aliens,
Mhm.
It like affected him in a certain way where he was able to manipulate them. So like literally like their ship is like almost pretty much like alive.
So basically, if this guy was incapacitated, then
They
there's
were
no
stuck,
way-
yeah.
they were stuck.
They were literally fucked. Yeah.
So, but that's great. I'm glad that he had to rely on one guy to make this happen.
But yeah, their ship would just like jump like that. So that their ship was like a little bit different, but like basically, you know, not to get sidetracked on this stupid ship, but basically when they made the jump into the future,
yeah.
in the future where they jumped to, the future they jumped to, there was an issue that had already had occurred where all of the ships in Star Trek, and I don't know so much about in Kirk's, but I know the future ones all had like, I believe they're called dilithium crystals.
Okay.
And in the future that they jumped to, the dilithium crystals were all corrupted.
Right.
And that caused all of the ships to explode. All of the crystals that were corrupted they all exploded. And Starfleet is not the huge force that they once were.
Gotcha.
It caused like literally thousands upon thousands of not just Starfleet, but we're talking Klingons, we're talking regular people, we're talking ships in general. Any ship that had
These crystals, basically.
these crystals just explode. And so Discovery potentially set up Star Trek and Starfleet to just reboot. Starfleet now does exist in Discovery because like they gave the franchise a fresh start. But like we're saying, they're starting a whole new show where they're starting the Starfleet Academy. There's going to be new recruits. So like they're starting like a whole new, basically like Starfleet, a whole new federation. They're going to have to start like a whole new federation of planets. Like they're having to start this whole thing from scratch, basically.
See, this is where it's tough, man. Because, you and I have mentioned this before that, you have the general basis of, like a great TV show or a movie or a comics or whatever, right? Like something that gets really popular and does whatever, and you run its course for a long time. And then you're like, okay, so now what do we do? And then you do these like random spinoffs or these like different shows, and we're like, we're going to continue to expand this universe. And then, you get to a point where you're like, okay, well, how far can we do it? Or do we want to reboot at some point? Do we want to talk about a prequel or, and the problem is like I said, the hardest part about a really good franchise, right, is like when you even look at like Star Wars or like, the Avengers and so on and so forth, and you're like, wow, this is great. This is, this is what we want to see. This is what we're really seeing about, the future wise. You're looking at this and it's like, if you've been doing this for, let's see, since the 60s, so we're talking almost 60 years, bud. Pretty much. Or actually probably a little bit more than that, technically. So it's crazy, to look at that and be like, damn, holy shit, here we are, and now we're doing this for literally a 60 plus, or well, let's say at least 60 years of shit that you have. It's a pretty good amount of time to be like, okay, well, now are we still wanting to continue this or do we just let it be? And that's where I'm going to say it because when you start to look at, the OG show that was back in 1966, right? Or 63, whatever. I can't remember the exact time frame, but around that time, and then jumping ahead to now where we're talking about rebooting potentially, this next generation of series, from what it was, is it worth it? Is it going to be the time frame? Like,
and I don't know. I mean, because I'm looking at this right now. Like, from where they were, they jumped more than 900 years into the future.
Right.
So they jumped into the 32nd century, and when they jump into the future, what this event was, it was known as the burn.
The burn.
Because basically what, like I said, what had happened was it was basically that. It was the crystals had begun to burn the ships and they all exploded. And the Federation was gone. And it wasn't really until, this is saying like, it wasn't until the fourth, maybe the third or fourth season that the crew actually helps rebuild the Federation. So,
right.
Yeah, I don't know. And, I'm even reading this and it says the Discovery series begins 10 years before the events of the original series.
Right.
So this show begins 10 years, but this show, like, their Discovery helps end the Klingon War. In the second season, they investigate mysterious signals. They find a strange figure known as the Red Angel. They fight off a rogue artificial intelligence. And then the conflict ends when they travel to the 32nd century. But their propulsion system is called the spore drive. That's what it's called. So they have these spores, and that's what it.
Gotcha. That makes sense. No,
but yeah, is it really, after going to the 32nd century, now you're talking anybody who, you're talking 900 years. So anybody who is potentially even in the Star Trek universe is dead.
Oh, they're dead.
Everybody is dead.
They're extremely dead.
Dead.
They haven't been around for a while.
Nobody is alive.
Yeah, and because now again, this is where yes, you could theoretically, as a reboot would call itself here, you could do whatever the hell you want at this point because nobody's alive, nobody's whatever. But as long as you still brought back the roots Like you could, I mean, you could show pictures or whatever. Like, hey, there's a statue of Picard. Hey, look, there's a statue of Kirk. Whatever, right? You could do some of that stuff, like history wise, but you want to make sure
if they have that stuff, though.
Well, no,
you know what I mean?
Right,
like,
no, I understand that. I'm just saying, like, whoever's making the show. I'm just saying. If
I mean, that's even if they have historical records. I don't even know if they would have them after.
Yeah, I mean, again, if they call it the burn and things blow up, I mean,
I would.
Who are they going to find to have records of this?
Because at this point in the 32nd century, I mean, the burn has already happened, and the Federation is no longer in existence.
Right.
So when they show up with a Federation starship, they're like, "What's the Federation?"
Yeah, because it's been hundreds of years because nobody's heard of it.
Right. So, you're talking, if they even knew what it was, I think in the show, like when they get to the future, like there was one random person that was supposed to be like the kind of like lookout if anybody was like,
yeah,
hey, I'm from the Federation.
Like, yeah, I'm just here.
I'm just here. They hired me.
Can you let me in? That'd be great.
But yeah, in the 32nd century, like you have to start over. Like, would you want another Enterprise? I mean, I guess it's good because yes, you can start a brand new Star Trek for a new generation of fans. You can keep what's made the franchise popular. You can create new stories. You can create new characters. You can give it a fresh start.
This is where I keep saying with a franchise, right? Because
when is enough? Like,
right. When is enough? When do you say, you know what, we're done and this is what you get? Like, this is all you're getting. And then you could rewatch the shit out of it. It's the truth because I'm going to say it, right? Because we all know that, with Star Wars, I mean, at some point, yes, it's got an expanded universe, but okay, let's say it's been around for 60 plus years now. I mean, it's getting pretty close to, but it's going to be in that same realm, and just like Marvel and DC, and we're gonna name all the damn franchises. Like, when do you say we're done with everything? And then you say, yep. And then maybe 30 years from now, they're like, you know what? Let's reboot that franchise one more time. And then they're just like, hey, we're just going to completely change everything, Hopefully at that point we're just like, yeah, whatever. We're just senile. We don't care. But
I mean, with the show, like I don't feel like Discovery's mission was about exploration. Like once they were in that 32nd century, I don't think that their whole mission was discover. At
that point you wouldn't be. You would be saying, okay, well, how do we start over? Or what do we do at this point?
I would say, like, right now, like, if you were going to do more shows, not like, Strange New Worlds, like, that's its own thing.
Right.
Because I think right now you already have an Enterprise. And if Enterprise is in the Discovery universe right now, you already have an Enterprise. But that's not in the 32nd century.
Right.
That is way before Kirk.
You mean well after Kirk?
No, it's Pike. Strange New Worlds is before
Sorry. I thought you were talking about like this 32nd.
Now
you're talking about the 32nd.
You're talking the 32nd century. So now, like, do you create a new Enterprise? Do you create a whole new crew for the Enterprise?
No, I agree. And now again, you're not going to have the same names at this point, clearly, because if you did, then you're like, okay, well, what's the point of doing this?
No, you'd have to create a whole new captain and a whole new crew you're not obviously going to have Kirk or
Pike or
anybody,
Picard or anybody.
You have to have new characters and new stories, but I think if they're going to make it a success, you have to get away from battles and these fucking missions where like you have to get back to what Strange New Worlds is doing right now. Episodic. It's not a season-long storyline where you have to watch every single week.
Right, to understand what was going on.
Understand what the hell's going on. Because if you like miss one episode and then it's like, oh, I don't know what's going on now. Like, you have to get back to what the originals were doing.
Yeah.
And you have to create like a whole new crew. If you're going to do an Enterprise, which I don't understand how you go back to a 32nd century. Like, you're in a whole new century. You have to go back to exploration. You have no Federation. You have no Starfleet. You have no Starfleet Academy. Right? You have to go back to basics. Create your Enterprise. Go back to space exploration. You have to go back to what you do.
Well, I was going to say you have to build at this point. You have to build from the ground up to get to where you need to be.
And that's what Starfleet is. That's their mission. Like, they do space exploration, space research. That's their diplomacy, peacekeeping. Like, that's what they do.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, this crew, what I'm talking about is they're the foundation. They need to be the ones to take the ideas of what the original Starfleet was and everything else and build from the ground up. They're going to have to be the founders of this new Starfleet in a sense, and that's where it's going to take a while. Like I said, it's not just like an overnight thing.
And that's what I'm saying. If you do a USS Enterprise show, it has to be about exploration and discovery, not about like what Discovery was doing,
right?
And space battles and going after missions, and it has to be about what the original show was doing.
Yeah, the original show was literally every week you could watch it, and granted, sometimes it would be a continuation from the previous week, but like
I think
very rare that they would.
I think the show could have a theme. Obviously, like the season can have a theme,
right?
But I think you should be able to watch a show here or a show there and be able to pick up what they're doing.
Right, and then
Law and Order. Law and Order had season themes.
Oh yeah, but I mean, then they might have
you could watch one episode of Law and Order and be like, "Yep,
right,
I know exactly what's going on."
Because I know you also wrote down like Chicago Fire, like a lot of Dick Wolf, right? Like he does a lot of that shit because that's also why he's very good at what he does when it comes to those shows, and a lot of other like CW shows and stuff like that, where you could watch an episode, know exactly what they're doing, and then it doesn't necessarily follow like the next episode. It's another day. It's just another day of whatever they're doing, and not having to worry about like, oh, looks like Johnny has to, he fell in the well. Okay, well, what happened to Johnny in the well? Well, we're going to find out next week. And if you don't watch that, then you're like, well, shit, what am I going to do now? But it's true. I mean,
those fucking CW shows. I was like, well, Johnny fell in the well. Okay, well, I'm watching Johnny fall in the well. Okay, well,
next week you'll find out.
You got to go watch this show because we're gonna.
Oh yeah, we're gonna bounce over here now.
We're gonna find out more about that. So you go watch that show, and then like, well, find out more about Johnny in the well when you go watch this show. What the fuck? Well, and then you watch this show and you go, well, if you want to find out how it ends, watch this show. And then you go watch this show. Well, if you want to find out how it ends, go watch this show. Guys, this is the fourth show. And then they're like, finally, find out how it ends on this show. And you're like, this is 5 shows in now. And then you watch this show. Finally, we find out how it ends. 6 shows, guys. Come on. No, and then you watch the 7th show. By the time you're done, it's like, guys, I just watched The Flash, Supergirl, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow. Like,
I know. I
just watched all these fucking shows just to watch one storyline.
To watch how Johnny fell in the well.
God damn it!
God damn it, Johnny! Why did you fall in the well?
But like, you can make them like. There's a lot of times when like, I mean, FBI has done this a lot. Where like, you'll see like FBI, and then they'll be like, oh, this, that one story connects to FBI International, and then FBI International will go on to FBI Most Wanted. Like, it'll be kind of like one big story on 3 shows.
Right.
And sometimes it's weird because, like, FBI Most Wanted, like, won't be on, Paramount Plus.
Right. Yep.
And you're like, well, how come they have, like, season 4 and 5, but, like, the episode I want is on season 2? Like, where the fuck is season 2?
You're like,
isn't this a Paramount Plus show? Where is it? I don't know.
You're like, go back to talk to the CEO. I don't know.
But I think the Chicago ones are the most weird because like at the end of the show, like they kind of go in. I don't watch any of those shows.
But
I
do. I watch them all actually. Besides Justice, I never. It will only land or really only ran for one season, but nobody actually watched it. But anyways, no, these shows like Chicago Fire started, then it was PD Med. Point is, I guess, is that PD Fire and Med, yes, they do occasionally like tie in. It's only really two shows that tie in together. There hasn't been one that I've seen that has like.
Well, what I understand is like I think was the Fire that. Actually, like either own a bar or they go to a bar.
And they owned a bar.
Kind of like the PD and the.
So no, actually, so PD doesn't actually go to that bar. PD goes to another bar. Not the point. Usually, it's Fire and Med. Fire and Med usually show up together. PD doesn't actually. They'll occasionally go to that bar, but it's mostly like another bar. But they do, at least they interact. They do have a lot of characters that do interact outside of what they're doing. And they do have like conversations and stuff, which is nice. So like that can be kind of helpful in that sense.
Yeah.
But it's very hard because like, again, we're talking about one city, right? We're talking about a city and that everyone just works there. Now we're talking about ships? You have to like come back.
Well,
and do all that.
You are talking about Starfleet, so I mean, yeah, it can be interconnected by that because you are talking about Starfleet. So I mean,
yeah.
if you're talking like admirals or
maybe like captains or whoever,
higher ranking Starfleet officials, or if you're talking about maybe there's like the Enterprise, or maybe they do another Voyager or they do another ship, and maybe they're in the same area. Maybe they do connect and you see them like
talking like right. Like communicating that. I mean, I get what you're saying. And I mean, it can work. It can. They just they have to really, I think that perspective, I think they could do like well, but
I don't think
it depends on what they're going to do and how they're going to do it.
Honestly, I don't think there's enough brains in the think tank.
I don't know. I mean, no kidding. I mean, you and I talk about this every freaking week, man. I mean, but we always say that there's no way if they're going to do it.
I don't think there's enough brains in the think tank for this.
No, I think we're just saying it and we're hoping, but it's never going to happen.
I would honestly hope, but I mean, right now, like I see Strange New Worlds probably going for, I mean, there's going to be one this year. There will be probably one next year. Whether there's another one the year after is a whole nother story. I do not know.
It depends on how well they're going to do each season.
But even if they go for another year after that,
yeah,
it would be very improbable for them to go beyond like 5, 6, or 7, because the newer shows have only gone for maybe 5 or 6. So
it's pretty sad that when you start to look at shows like that, especially when they're getting good, that they only want to, they'll literally say, you know what, we're done right here. That's it. That's the line. What happened to like old shows or like, I would say in the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years, like a lot of them go to like 10 or longer, right? And then they stop after a little while because then you're like, okay, we've had enough. We clearly know that you can't go past this point because we clearly don't have any more ideas at this point.
If they were smart, and I would hope that they would be at this point, and whoever's career are writing these shows, they would jump on a bandwagon of saying like, perhaps like we need to get on like maybe like, and I know Taylor Sheridan or Dick. They have like their genres, like, right?
No, Taylor Sheridan with the whole Yellowstone and,
they have their genres and stuff, but like they would get somebody like that like can do something. Like you have a Starfleet show that you're already planning, right? Like you have that show that you're already planning. What would be interesting enough to see is if you took the people that were going to be on that show already,
mm-hmm.
and you already planned for them to be in another show after that.
Right.
They're already going through fucking Starfleet.
So why not put them somewhere else on a different ship?
I mean, unless the show absolutely fails and you suck as a show creator.
Sounds like, Matt, you need to get on the bandwagon of show creating and start showing Hollywood how it's done.
I just need to get on AI and just
Start giving ideas out.
just start creating a show. I mean,
Dude, then let's do it. I think you and I should start it. Let's call. We don't know a name yet. We're going to say it right now on March 1st.
I already have a cast, man. I already have a ship crew.
I know you have a ship. No. I'm talking about, no, I'm being serious. Maybe we should have an episode where we talk about our, like a show, like you and I will create a show. And it's just a fresh idea. Now we can use AI.
I will literally have this for the next for episode 3. What? I already have the cast already.
Oh no! I'm not. No,
I have a cast. I will have the show idea for you.
Oh, you're. Oh, I'm sorry. So you're going to have a completely separate, unrelated topic to Star Trek. You're saying you're going to have a show for me about anything, about whatever it is. Well, not about Star Trek. I'm not talking about Star Trek. I'm talking about another whole idea for a show.
Well, I'm talking Star Trek just for...
Okay, for this one.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying maybe we should do one where we actually, you and I will collaborate and actually like try to figure out another TV show. Maybe a franchise. Maybe a franchise, bud. Maybe we can figure it out. Anyways, no, but I will say this as a kind of closing thought here, but I know for a fact... Me personally, if the way we've been talking this whole entire time, I definitely will not see a Star Trek movie moving forward. I'm only saying this because the realization is that Star Trek right now has been mostly focusing on TV shows. I highly doubt they're going to do a movie unless this is where we're going to say this. If they can do a reboot or whatever, if they can build established seasons first, maybe they could look at doing a movie. Now, the problem is, you and I both know this, depending on how they do it, if you look at, for example, when you start looking at CW and you looked at DC, right? Guess what? They didn't talk, right? Because those characters never added up because, oh, wait, we got two totally separate shit.
Yeah.
Right? So I highly doubt if they're gonna be smart about it, they should make sure that the actors they hire for the TV show that they would put them in the fucking movie and not be like, hey, you know what? We're going to randomly ask like, hey, Henry Cavill, why don't you come on over and be our, whatever, our fucking captain here. And you're like, wait a minute. What does this have to, he's not in the show. Well, we want him to be the captain, the good guy or whatever. What does that have to, but that's what I'm saying.
The only thing, and Paramount Plus, like, I don't know why they decided it's so weird because there's a movie that they put on there called Section 31. And at first, like, I didn't realize that this was a Star Trek movie.
You got me on that because I had to, you told me.
I didn't know until I looked it up, actually, for the research for this episode. And then I went on to Paramount Plus and I was looking at the cover. I was looking at the wording, Section 31.
Yeah.
And, the preview of it, I was like, oh, yeah, this is totally a Star Trek movie. I mean, it wasn't like an in-theater movie. Obviously, it was like it's a spin-off from the characters that were in Discovery, which is why it's not a theater movie.
No kidding on that
one. But the Star Trek is written inside the word section.
What?
Yeah, it's like written inside one of the letters in section. That's why you can't see it because it's written inside one of the letters.
That's fucking weird. Why would you do that?
I don't know. And I'm sitting there looking at it and I'm like, well, that's why you can't tell that it's a Star Trek movie because they put it sideways inside one of the letters and I was like
the T or something weird like that.
I think it's in either the T or the I.
Probably one of the two.
And I was like, why would you even do that? Like, I don't understand why you would.
It would have to flow. You know what I mean? Like, it would have to be something, or like a little cryptic message or something. You could like make it like, oh, hey, look.
But they didn't make it a different color. No. Like, it didn't stand out. Like it sort of just blended in. So you just see Section 31 and it just looks like just the wording. So it didn't stand out. But, right now Paramount Plus is the current home for Star Trek. So you can, any of the shows, the movies, you can find them on Paramount Plus. But right now, I think when you look at Star Trek, there are no well-known actors or characters in Star Trek, I think that could carry a multi-million-dollar Star Trek movie. None that I could think of.
Well, and that's what I mean, right? Because like if you have the TV show and you have whatever you're having, right? You're definitely not going to have
It would have to be a reboot.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Like you'd have to start over,
restart, or refresh, whatever you want to call it.
Or here's an idea. Kind of like what they've done in the past is right. You would have a movie first about whatever. Could be, you know, the reboot of the actual original series or whatever, or just whatever you wanted to do. And then you could make a TV show right afterwards. But again, it depends on how...
You would still have to do like a reboot or whatever you want to, like whatever you want to call it. But you would still have to do like a major reboot to the franchise. Whether you do the TV show or you do a movie first, you would still have to do some kind of a reboot to do that. Like you would have to choose like somebody who could carry $1 million movie.
Was that the cover?
No, that's not the cover.
Well, anyways, I was just looking at the Section 31, but yeah. Anyways,
but you would have to choose if you were doing a major motion picture. Like at the time when they made Star Trek, like the very first movie. It was in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And this is William Shatner was huge in the 80s. He could carry the movie.
Oh, yeah.
But nobody in Star Trek right now can carry Star Trek. Nobody. No. There's nobody in Star Trek that can carry it.
So like I said, the problem is like if you're going to have a cast of people, you'd have to make sure that you'd have a good cast that they would want to do a TV show afterwards, or or something like that too, to be able to kind of follow that story along. And it's hard because
and that would never happen. Because,
I know it won't.
Because typically, if you have, I mean, maybe some of them, but not every single movie actor is going to move over to a TV show because there's no money in TV.
Not anymore. That's the thing.
Not unless you're moving over to like a Disney.
Right, it would depend on where you were. Right, and it's hard. Like I said, you
not if you're moving to a fucking Paramount Plus Star Trek show.
Again, but it would. Well, if it got popular enough, that's the thing. That
ain't getting popular enough.
Well, I'm just telling you. That's the only thing.
Not unless your name is like Henry Cavill or something like popular like that now.
You mean Dwayne Johnson?
No,
he's
like Dwayne Johnson.
Oh, you hear that, Rock? I'm calling him out. Matt Gunther said, "Fuck you, you bitch." He said, "I'll eat you for breakfast." Is what he said. He said, "I'll beat the shit out of you." Oh, I'm just hyping you up, Matt. So my point is, Dwayne the Rock Johnson. Okay, if you see this, I'm gonna tag you in it. And I said, look at this episode at this time. That's where you could find Matt. I said, don't worry, I'll give you the address, and you can go right up to his doorstep and you tell him. I just
want you to know who's talking right now because it's not me.
Right, but you did just say fuck Dwayne the Rock Johnson, so that's all I'm saying.
But I did not say I was going to beat his ass. That was you.
No. That's what you said. No. That's what you said.
That was all you.
That's what you said after. Don't you worry.
That was all you.
Oh, no.
Fuck Dwayne Johnson for being in
which basically you
in a Star Trek movie. Oh. You said you were going to beat his ass.
No, I did not say. No, I did not say I was beating his ass. I said you were going to beat his ass because you told him to go fuck himself. That's what he said. That's what you just told me. So, anyways, that's not what we're saying here.
But what I'm saying is, it could not just be some Joe Schmo, and they probably wouldn't move over to a TV show, so it wouldn't really matter who you had. Anyways, even if you did a movie with like a plus movie actor playing, title roles in every single role.
Oh no, I get what you're saying.
You could make a brand new, Enterprise movie with James T. Kirk and a Sulu and the whole original cast.
Oh yeah.
And none of them would agree to doing a TV show. The characters would be popular, sure. And you could be like, hey, there's maybe something in doing a new TV show based on this movie.
Right.
But we'd have to recast the whole thing.
Oh, I know.
So it's like, would you really, the real question is, would we really ever see a Star Trek in the theaters again. And I think no.
I agree with you. That's why I said animated series. I would say the way of the future is really like, again, it's either animated or regular TV.
Honestly, and I hate to say this for the future of movies, but I honestly think movies are just on their way out. I honestly don't like. Not that I'm really super excited about movies that are coming out, but I'm just not like. Well, I do want to see Captain America, but I'm just not super excited.
Well, I told you, and somebody, I think, that's what it was. Allie was like, "Oh, you should go see it in theaters." I'm like, I don't want to go see it in theaters. I'd rather just go watch it at home because there's just certain movies that I'm like, I have not been so excited to see a movie in a long time. The last time I said I was like freaking out about a movie was Endgame. And I'm being totally honest. There were some movies that I may have seen like in the theaters, but Endgame was really the one that I was like, oh yeah.
I would rather sit here. I would rather sit here and watch like an 8 to 10 to 12 episode TV show.
Oh yeah.
On Captain America than to sit here and watch 2 hours of bullshit and go, is that it? That's all I got?
Well, right. Because then at the end of the day, you're like, okay, I guess I'm waiting 5 years or 6 years from now to figure out what the fuck is going to happen after this. Because we don't know. We have no idea what the fuck's going to happen after this movie. I mean, granted, we don't know anything. I mean, hell, I'm still curious about the whole goddamn Fantastic Four shit. I mean, and how that fucking plays out and why are they in the 60s? And is it an alternate timeline? There's so many questions I have for that, but not the point. Because there's so many other things going on. But no, I agree with you. I think to really end this, it's like, I'm not going to see Star Trek really doing a whole lot of movies. I think they're going to really work on TV shows. And honestly,
I'd be very surprised.
And I would be very surprised. And honestly, I don't, for right now, at least for the foreseeable future, I'm not seeing them really rebooting like the original series. I think they're just going to continue on for whatever the fuck they're doing now with Starfleet. And if it's great, successful wise, like great, go for it. If it's not, then this is where we say, do you want to continue or do you want to say, you know what? We're done. We're fucking done. And then,
I don't know. I mean, I really, either way you look at it, it's like you either completely ignore what Discovery has done, which means like this new Starfleet Academy show, just, you have to put the kibosh on it right away.
Yep.
And nothing comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And you just, Discovery was another timeline.
Yeah, once again.
And you leave it at that, and you keep going with Strange New Worlds, which in turn leads you down that path of, okay, well, what's after that? Well, Kirk is after that.
Right. And then you'd watch the original and blah, 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 and then so on and so forth.
So then it's, back to the original question is, do you do a new Kirk or do you just move on or
do you just end Star Trek?
I really think this franchise is in trouble. I mean, you either reboot or you either just keep doing the same tropes that you've been doing.
And like I said, I mean, I know people I will say in the last 20 years, they always love the word expanded universe, or at least expanding universes, because Star Trek, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, like all the big names and stuff, like again, even The Walking Dead and so on and so forth, right? All these series, right? They want to expand. They want to, dive into deeper stories and do whatever. It's great. But there will be coming a time where you're thinking to yourself, when the fuck do we call it end? Like, when do we say enough is enough? This needs to be the end.
It would be fine if you had creators that just weren't putting their own bullshit into stories and they just followed what Star Trek was.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. When you look at the blueprints and you look at everything else.
If they just took the time to actually do good stories, good characters, and good episodes and put in the time, instead of going, well, I think this character should be struggling with this. And, well, society is saying this. And, well, I think we should be having this character and the whole arcing of the season be fuck that shit. It should be, is the characters developed properly?
And is it worth our time?
Is the storyline properly developed? Is the whole, is the show properly developed? Is it written well? Like,
Right.
are the characters written well? Like, fuck everything else. Like, that will come. But you have to develop these things first.
Right.
And then the things after that, you can sneak in if you want to. But you have to do these things first. If you don't do these things first, they aren't going to come after.
And you're sure not going to have a show that's going to last long. No, and that's why I told you, man. It's sad. It's crazy that, it's almost like running out of ideas as a society to like come up with new shit. It's like we'll just steal from the past and then we'll just bring it to the future and we're just like, yeah, we'll call it something. We're going to call it shit, but basically it's something.
It's like, fuck, even after 32 centuries, we're still dealing with the same fucking bullshit.
Yeah, same stupid shit that you want to deal with since day one. Anyways, guys and gals.
Can we just get over our bullshit after 32 centuries?
Like,
God damn it.
Look at that. I love how we're like Jake Shiomi and Coke over here. No, anyways, guys, I know we've been talking a lot of the Star Trek shit, but I mean, yes, of course, we're going to have a third part. This is more going to be kind of like the wrap up, and as well as like kind of giving you an idea of maybe what could be some
we'll
different ideas.
We'll be talking more about the movies.
Well, yes, the movies, but I was going to say like some ideas that maybe, maybe it will never happen, but here's some ideas that we came up with, or really, I would say Matt, or actually not even Matt. I was going to say this is more AI generated at this point.
This is going to be 100% ChatGPT, baby.
Baby, that's right. AI, I love it. But yes, no. So again, follow, interact, subscribe, and tell your friends. Okay, you gotta get that some of that fist bump, baby. What is it? What's that? What are you about to do? What are you doing?
I'm getting ready to hit the outro button.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were like trying to like do like a dun, 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 dun,
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I guess I'm screwing up this now. Anyways, until next time, we'll see you again, and hopefully you have a great night.
Stay geeky, 'cause we're geeks from the multiverse.